We're now on the Tornado Sportscars stand, renowned for their GT40 replicas, and Dave has very kindly agreed to talk to us. In front of us, we've got one of the space frame cars.
Correct.
Which I believe was featured on a YouTube channel called Ratchet.
Ratchet, yeah. There's about 30 episodes, I think, at least, maybe more than that. And he didn't buy it new. He bought it as a project, I guess. It was a car that wasn't quite as good as maybe it should have been, and he spent a lot of time getting it to this level. It
looks really, really beautiful. And what engine is this one running?
This has got an absolutely stock Ford 302 with an 8-stack Weber system on it.
Oh, so that really suits the car.
That's as it was.
Yeah.
As these were raced in the 60s. Yeah.
And if somebody today still wanted to buy one of these, this is still a kit that's produced?
This is our standard package, which off the top of my head, you might not get the Webers with it. It might be a little bit more than this, but a standard car, as this is about 60,000.
And that's turnkey, ready to get in and
ready to go, including brake fluid, everything.
Absolutely.
But that might be fitted with a Holly, not an 8-stack on it.
Okay, but ultimately, a bit like going to your local Peugeot dealer, you could turn up at yourselves and you could pick one up and drive it away.
It's ready to roll. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. It does look, in this period colour as well, I think it looks absolutely fantastic.
Actually, it's gorgeous. I love it.
Absolutely great.
He'll deny it, but I call this linden green, which was actually a racing colour from the 60s. If you speak to Andrew himself, who's going to be here later today, he says it's his own mix of colours, because these cars are all individual. They're not originals, and people build them, and it's my car, and I want it as I want it.
So moving along, I see you've got a table full of spares there, and I understand you're one of the few people that actually produce your own parts rather than being imported or from elsewhere.
We make everything from the chassis, the space frame chassis, the monocoque chassis. The pattern for the monocoque chassis is cut on a CNC table that we have in-house, and all the parts here laid out are all made by us. We don't have our own casting, but we do hold the patterns for everything. So foundry rather. We don't have our own foundry, but the parts are all our own. Yeah, and everything is machined and the steering wheel's made in-house. Example, the fuel caps. Most fuel caps you'll buy from very reputable businesses online these days. They're all made billet, so it's cut by computer, which means you get flat edges everywhere. Obviously in the 60s they didn't have that, and everything on here is made in a foundry, and it's cast and assembled in-house at Tornado. So the cap's cast, the flange here is cast, this is shot blasted, this is polished, and it's completed in-house, all drilled out and made by hand. So wow. there's an awful lot of labour involved in it.
I can imagine that, but it does look absolutely period for what would suit the car.
And they are as they were, yeah. Basically.
And the car over here, I believe, is yours.
It is. It's built in my spare time, yes.
But that's a monocoque chassis. And is that how they were more original?
This is actually, well, true to be honest, they never, Ford GT40s were never a space frame chassis. They were a monocoque chassis, but the originals were a steel monocoque. You could argue this is the car that Ford never made. In fact, I could be corrected on this, but Ken Miles, the guy from the film that nearly won the race, or did win the race, depending on your point of view, was killed 2 weeks later driving what they called the J car. And the J car was an aluminium monocoque.
Ah, okay.
So that was it, and I believe that's the case. Probably somebody's going to tell you that it isn't true, but I think it is.
If you think Dave's wrong, please jump in the comments and tell us.
Please don't.
It helps our figures.
I think I'm right, but
what are we talking? Wait, what? Oh, okay. Let's have a look at these first.
We're talking. We make the space frame car, which we looked at previously. This car is actually made of a aluminium honeycomb. And we actually also do a carbon fibre honeycomb, whereas the space frame car weighs about 1.25 tonnes. This car weighs somewhere around 900 kilos. So It's a lot lighter than your family saloon, and it's got a 5.7 litre engine in the back. So you really don't need any more power. The carbon fibre one is lighter again, not by a massive amount. I think it's about 850 kilos on the road.
Wow. And do you need the fuel injection to get through IVA? on the emissions?
Certainly not.
Okay, that's interesting.
No.
Oh, okay.
We actually have a feature where if you buy a car from Tornado, before you get it painted, bring it back to us when you finish the build, and we will IVA it for you, and we get them through. We put cars through the Tornado are based in Kidderminster, and there's a local IVA station in Kidderminster, and we run cars down to them every other week in the summer.
Yeah, and it must be really convenient. There's somebody that knows your cars and know you.
They're very familiar with them, and they're all built the same pretty much. And if a car comes back to us and like you can't put a car through an IVA with spinners on it. So, but we have wheel nuts that we manufacture. So we take your spinners off, we put the wheel nuts on. I'm trying to think. You have to have a window that goes down on the side of the car, so you cannot fit the side windows for an IVA test.
Oh, okay.
And indicators have to be visible from particular angles, so you'll need an indicator in your front light pod. But we fit all that in. We have a complete kit that we have put on a car for the IVA test, and then we'll take it off after the test.
Okay, so I bought my kit. How do I go about fitting the body?
We always say anybody can build these cars. You don't need to be an engineer. The kit comes with a complete set of build instructions and a DVD with all the relevant photographs. However, in all honesty, probably the trickiest bit and the bit that is different for every car is fitting the body. But you've just got to follow simple rules which are laid down in the instruction manual. And the datum point, the first point of measurement, is from the back of what we call the spider, this bit, to the back of the chassis. That measurement is in the instructions. You screw this down here, and from there you fit the rear body clip to the back edge here and get that gap set right accurately across the whole gap, which is I think supposed to be about 4 mil. Once this body clip's set down here, you fit the outer sill to the chassis to line up with a wheel arch to the front, and that'll give you a set point for the front body section round the front wheel arch. And then when that's screwed down, you get hold of the bottom of the windscreen and you pull it forward to match round the scuttle at the bottom of the screen.
So
simple. Sounds simple.
So it's not quite Lego, but it's a bit more complicated.
It's just a bit more complicated. And the doors come oversized. And when you've got the body all fitted down, you fit the door slowly, trimming it back until you get the right gap.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thanks for that one, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you.